In this video, we're going to render our animation as a sequence file using the Arnold render system. So instead of using the default Maya software render, we'll use the Arnold one. So it's a little bit different here. First of all, I've got a plane in here, just a simple plane with my little animated spaceship, just like we did in the video previous to this. And I'm going to go ahead, since I'm using Arnold for this, I'm going to go ahead and place a light in here so we can see. So I'll go to a top view, and let's go to create lights, and actually let's go to Arnold, sorry. So we'll go to Arnold, lights, and I'm going to use just a basic area light. And let's move it up off the top here, and I'm going to rotate it so that it's pointing down at the surface. And let's go ahead and get it up high enough so the animated spaceship doesn't go above the light. Alright, so if you want to do a quick test render, you'll probably need to increase the intensity of this light. So let's do a quick check here. Under lighting, let's go down to use all lights, and we can see if our light is actually showing up in here. So with the light selected, bring it up in the attribute editor, and let's increase the intensity of this to about 50 and see if that makes a difference. Also, resolution samples, I'm going to leave these at the default settings because I really don't want to make this render time any longer than I need to. But obviously, if you're rendering this for something professional and important, you'd want to go in there and make sure that's high quality render settings. So the light that I have set up right now, it shows, the closer I get, the brighter it is, because it has the fall off or the decay already set up in here. So let's just see if the spaceship goes beyond the light. It looks like it just barely goes through there. Maybe we'll throw in a couple lights in here just to make sure. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit higher. I'm going to move it over to the side. I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate, and I'm going to bring one over here. So that way we've got two, and somewhere they should do a pretty good job. Let's just do a quick test render here to make sure that this shows up and it's not just solid black. So let's go up to our render settings, and for render using, let's drop this down to use the Arnold. And I'm not worried about the file output yet because we're just going to do a quick single rendered image to make sure that it's going to show up in here. There's enough lighting. I'm not going to increase the sampling on this. I just want to make sure that it's going to work. So let's go ahead and close, and I'll hit the render button up here and see what this looks like. Yeah, so that's got enough light to it so that we can do something here. So that should also give you, if you do go back to the render scene here, down here it'll tell you the render time was, and what you basically want to do is jot that down and multiply it by however many frames you're going to render, and that'll give you a pretty good estimate of about how long it's going to take to render the entire animation. Alright, so let's go ahead and set this up to render the animation part of it. So we'll go back to render settings, and this part is very similar to what we did with the Maya software render. So I'm just going to, for the file output, I'll put the same name we used before, only I'm going to add Arnold, so I know this is the Arnold file. Image format, we can keep it up with JPEG if we want to. Quality, make sure that's 100%. The file, the frame and extension, obviously we want to use the name.number.extension. Frame padding will be 4 still, frames 1 through 300, and we're using camera 1 still, the same. Alright, so let's go ahead and hit close, and we can save that. You obviously want to save that before you render them. I'm going to bring up the script editor so we can see what's going on here when we render it. I'm going to open this up. Alright, so now make sure you're in the render menu set. So I'm in the render menu set. If not, go ahead and hit rendering and go to rendering, and for this, instead of doing batch render, we're going to do render sequence, and you can hit the option box here, and it's already got the camera. We could do an alternate file output type. Let's just go ahead and hit render sequence and close. And you can see here, when the way Arnold does it is it actually has the render up here, but you can also see, if I can move this, might not let me move it out of the way. Normally what I do is when it's finished, move this over to the side. You can see exactly what's going on down here in the script editor, and you can see that it's telling me that it's on frame 15 and frame 16, now 17. So obviously this one's going to take a little bit more time, and we could just let it sit there and do it. So I'll let that render through, and then I'll come back when it's all finished. Alright, so I'm back, and it says it's completed. So you can see here, render frame 300 and sequence rendering completed. So just like we did with the Maya software render, we can close this. We can also see in the script editor here the path name for where those files were set up, and they're in the exact same location that I had the others. So I'm just going to close that out, and I'll go browse to go find those. So let me open up my computer here, and we'll go to users, then my name, and we'll go to documents, Maya, projects, default, images, and here they are. So again, if you had set up a project, you would have them in that project folder, but I didn't, so I'm just put them here, and I'm going to drag them all into a separate file folder, which will make it easier when we bring these into After Effects later. Alright, so there we've got all of the images rendered out as in using the Arnold software for the animation.